Good evening, YouTube. You guys are now watching under the skin of TheCaliEffect, King of Games, and today you guys are going to be watching an epic battle between Herald of Perfection and Bountiful Artemis. A little bit before we get into the game, I just want to point out that my wife is playing Herald of Perfection. She actually saw both of the decks, got extremely excited over Herald of Perfection being somewhat competitive inside of this format. It's been quite a bit of years since she has played Herald of Perfection, so you guys are going to have to forgive her gameplay. We're still looking for people to ease in so I can get you guys more live games. Our old crew just seemed to kind of fizzle out, so I'm looking for a new group of people to record games with. So I expect to have more games for you guys very soon. But looking into the game, Herald of Perfection is a really strong deck, and side-by-side statistics of both decks, they seem pretty much even, with Herald of Perfection having the disadvantage against Counter Fairy. I'm just really excited to present you guys a game like this. Going into the game though, Herald of Perfection is going to start off with 3, 4, possibly 5 back row. That is freaking crazy. No, that is going to be a Monster Summon Power Valkyria, and then Card of Demise for 3 additional cards on top of Counter Fairy's hand. So not only are you going to have some pretty decent back row, but Power Valkyria is going to be a really good card for searching those monsters that Counter Fairy does need from the deck to the hand. So 2 cards are going to be set face down, and unfortunately it looks like the last card, Ties of the Brethren, is going to be Lost to Demise. Not that it could have been activated anyways, seeing that Card of Demise prevents special summoning. So it looks like Herald is going to start off pretty strong with Preparation of Rites. Being able to search Herald is pretty good. It's going to start off with some really good negation. And I want to point out one thing that Counter Fairy does have against Herald is that all of the Counter Fairy's trap cards are spell speed 3, meaning that they can negate Herald of Perfection's effects and send it straight to the graveyard without Herald of Perfection having that type of advantage. So there is a little bit of an advantage to the Counter Fairy player, seeing that Counter Fairy would be able to negate those cards. Now, Bonju of 10,000 is going to be summoned, and it's going to be met with one of the 5 back row, which just so happens to be a Solemn Strike, and that will gain Powered Valkyria's effect to search a monster from the deck to the hand. And now you guys are going to start seeing how the deck starts to steamroll the opponent, being able to negate card effects. Wait, hold on. It doesn't look like Power Valkyria's effect is going to be activated. Obviously, a slight misplay on Counter Fairy's part, but as you guys have seen before, she's really new to the game, so you gotta kind of, well, she's not really new to the game, but she's really brand new back into the game, so you kind of have to forgive what's going on. We kind of got a sneak peek of what one of the cards were drawn off of my desires, and it seems to be a Luster Pin Draco Slayer, a really good card. Unfortunately, the scales weren't placed in the correct parts, or the spell trap cards weren't placed in the correct parts. Both of the scales seem to be covered, so unless there is a way to activate your cards out of your scales, then Luster Pin is kind of useless just right now. So 2 cards are going to be added off of the Pot of Desires draw 2, and it looks like Counter Fairy still, no matter what, is going to be in a pretty good position, and it does help that they have Ties of the Brethren. Paying 2,000 additional life points to summon 2 more monsters to the side of the field kind of makes up for not being able to gain Power Valkyria's effect to search, I don't know, an Honest, a Barrier Statue. Not that Barrier Statue would have helped, but you know, an Honest, Artemis or something like that. It really would have helped in hindsight, but like everything, like you said, you really can't blame new players for making, you know, just small mistakes. So I think you can really definitely brush this under the rug. But right now, as of looking at it, it probably would have been a Minerva, a Bountiful Artemis, an Honest, and a Powered Angel on the field. So Honest is going to use this effect to return itself to the hand, and since Ties of the Brethren prevents the battle phase, it looks like it just might be the end of Counter Fairy's turn, down to 4,500 to Herald of Perfection's 8,000, but I'm not really seeing a way for Herald to get out of this. The board has already been established for Counter Fairy with 3 back row. It could be really tough, really tough for Herald of Perfection to find its way out of this. So Herald of Perfection, looking at its hand, is going to go ahead and summon Geldalgro, a really powerful card that at the cost of 3,000 life points, it's going to being able to send a card from the extra deck to the graveyard. It's going to be met with another Solemn Strike, so 3,000 life points completely for nothing. And I know there seems to be a little bit of an error, but Counter Fairy, or Herald of Perfection, should be at 5,000 to Counter Fairy's 3,000. Now Powerful Valkyria gets to activate its effect, and Bountiful Artemis also uses the effect to draw a card. Keep in mind, Bountiful Artemis does not have, or its effect does not activate. You just draw immediately after it resolves. It is a continuous effect. And Power Valkyria being able to search a fairy monster, any fairy monster, from the deck to the hand, and all you have to do is negate. And now that I think about it, you know, Power Valkyria could probably be really good for Herald of Perfection. With Herald of Perfection already on the board, as soon as you negate a card, Power Valkyria allows you to search another card from your deck to your hand. So just some food for thought for you Herald of Perfection players that are looking for some spicy text. Power Valkyria just might be your card. So it looks like that's going to be in the end of Herald of Perfection's turn, and it looks like I said, Counter Fairies are pretty much steamrolling through this game, having complete control. Even though they don't have the life points advantage, it almost doesn't matter because Herald of Perfection is not able to get off its play. So Minerva is going to be summoned, and he has a 1700 value in a face down. Parshoth Sanctuary is going to be activated, making the back row of Counter Fairies almost protected by almost everything. So it looks like some more back row is going to be set, and more attacks are going to be launched on the Counter Fairy player. It looks like this is going to be pretty much game. I don't really see him coming out of this, and it looks like Herald of Perfection is going to go ahead and scoop this up. This is utterly game. That was nasty. Going into game 2 with Counter Fairy having an advantage, already having that one victory, all they need to do is to secure another victory to shut Counter Fairy out, and it was kind of expected. Counter Fairy is being the superior deck to Herald of Perfection, and literally as long as Counter Fairy can go first, especially in this matchup, it's gonna be pretty problematic for Herald of Perfection. And even if Herald of Perfection does get to go first, it is just one Solemn Strike away or one Parshoth away from negating the Herald of Perfection. So this time around, it looks like Herald of Perfection is going to be going first. Looking at the hand, it's going to be pretty awesome. Pot of Desire is going to be activated right off the bat, banishing 10 cards from the deck to draw 2 additional cards. So it's going to be really interesting to see how that will impact Herald of Perfection into this matchup. So drawing 2 additional cards might help tremendously. It might not. Those 10 cards might have hurt. And unfortunately with Desires, that's how it works in this game. So Preparation of the Rites is going to be activated to add Herald of Perfection and Dawn of Herald from the deck to the hand, and it looks like we're going to be seeing a Herald play because we already saw an Angel card, a Cyber Angel Benton. So Dawn of Herald is going to be activated, tributing Cyber Benton, and then that's going to trigger the Benton's effect to search possibly a Star Seraph or an Eva from the deck to the hand. Eva's going to be searched, and Dawn of Herald might just activate its effect at the Benton, but that actually lets us know what was banished from Desires. If Dawn of Herald is activated to add the Benton from the graveyard to the hand, then we know at least one copy of Dawn of Herald is still in the main board. If it is not, then possibly Herald of Perfection is still waiting on that pre-preparation of rights, or a preparation of rights to add that Dawn of Herald back from the deck to the hand. But no, it looks like a Manju is going to be summoned to add another Dawn of Herald. So are we looking for a double play? No, and then the Bent is going to be added back from the deck to the hand, which is pretty peculiar. So possibly double Herald of Perfection being banished, forcing Manju to search a Dawn of Herald to the hand, or possibly just another Herald of Perfection play in the making. So looking back, going to Counter Fairy's turn, I'm not sure if they drew the perfect hand, but if they did, it's going to be pretty problematic for Herald of Perfection, because like I said, just a Solemn Strike puts them back right into this game, and it's pretty catastrophic for this deck. Knowing that any false negation or any false move will completely destroy the Counter Fairy aspect, Power Valkyria is going to be normal summoned to destroy Manju at 1,000 hands or 10,000 hands, inflicting 400 damage, and then only one back row. That is freaking crazy for Counter Fairy. Only one back row, but then again, it's only one back row that is needed to stop Herald of Perfection and still trigger off all of the effects that you need. Power Valkyria being able to search Honest, Bountiful Artemis, or basically anything you need in your arsenal, and then Herald of Perfection being off the board. That's like a double win for Counter Fairy. So looking through the banished cards, it looks like, or the extra deck, they're going to start off with Gel Dogger, and Gel Dogger is a pretty powerful card. This actually might be the answer. Gel Dogger is going to pay 3,000 life points to send a card from the extra deck to the graveyard, so possibly a Herald of Perfection, or even better, an Elder Entity Intis, which is going to destroy the back row before Herald has to trigger its effect, preventing the option of Solemn Striking the Herald. So Intis is going to be sent to the graveyard, targeting the face down card, and it looks like Counter Fairy is thinking, but it's going to be a Solemn Strike just as suspected. It looks like Gel Dogger has saved the day, so another 3,000 life points, which isn't really a steep cost considering the fact that it just probably saved Herald of Perfection's game completely. And that's going to send a Herald of Arclight to the graveyard, adding Benton. Now, here is the bigger problem with the Herald of Perfection archetype is now you're sitting on a Gel Dogger in attack position at 650 attack, and you're down to 1,600 life points. If the opponent were to be able to produce a monster that as a 2250 or something like that, then it's game. It's nothing else to say about that. But Dawn of Herald is going to be activated, tributing Benton to summon Herald of Perfection. And the very next big problematic thing for Herald is that powered Angel Valkyria is 1800 attack. That's right, ladies and gentlemen, 1800 attack, which is the strongest monster in the Herald of Perfection deck. So unfortunately, it looks like a Herald of Perfection is going to have to crash into the powered Valkyria. Not saying that it was pretty much needed anyways, and that's going to lose the monster, and then 650 damage is going to be inflicted to Counter Fairy, bringing it down to 7350. Hey, you got to start from somewhere. Doesn't look like it's going to be the best game for Herald of Perfection, but it also looks like a way to get over certain problematic cards, something that Herald of Perfection does need to fix. Unfortunately, cards like Honest don't really add to the consistency, but might be necessary for this deck to get over some of those bigger beater monsters. And when you think about it, when you pair it with the powered Angel Valkyria, then you probably would have a decent searcher to Honest. Another thing that I want to talk about is if you guys want to see deck profiles of both of these decks, we do have them. They have been in the annotation or in the cards, the card that you guys have seen throughout this video. So go ahead and click on that card and you can see both of these decks and deck profiles. I think the biggest problem, like we said, in basically in the stats, is that the deck lacks a lot of attack. So if you can summon a monster bigger than it, it's not really much to do. So Pot of Desires is going to be activated, banishing 10 cards to draw 2 cards, but it looks like Herald of Perfection's going to negate that one after banishing 10. I don't know why Herald of Perfection just didn't negate the card of Demise and then just go ahead and negate the Desires, but nah, maybe it just felt good to negate you know, a Desires after you let the opponent card of Demise. Let them think that they were safe and that there were no viable targets in the hand. So discarding Eva is going to activate its effect, banishing 2 fairy monsters to add more targets from the deck to hand. So it looks like Counter Fairy just might not be playing this game, and it might be problematic for Counter Fairy, mainly because, like I said, this deck is going rolling. If the opponent doesn't have a Solemn Strike or a Parshaft Trap card, then again, it just might be a huge problem for the deck. 7,350 life points though, so it's not terribly bad. Let's see what Counter Fairy or Herald of Perfection can do to possibly even end this game right here and right now, but only after it looks like Herald of Perfection was setting a monster in face down attack. You never know what that monster is going to be, and if you attack into it, you're going to have to deal with that monster's attack. So I thought that was pretty funny. No, Gale Dogger is going to shift itself into defense position, and then Star Seraph Scepter is going to summon itself. And is it a stick and chair combo? I'm not 100% sure. I don't think so. It looks like just no stick and chair combo, just stick, and that probably should be enough to dominate the opponent, to be honest with you guys. 2 1800 attack monsters, unless there's a strike or something involved. This game looks like it just might be over right here, right now, without reducing the opponent's life points to 0. Let's see what Counter Fairy can do. Is there anything? Definitely thinking about the options that could happen. I can't really imagine too many cards that would last, and no, it looks like we're going to be going into game 3. Looking at the Game 3 landscape, both decks are 1-1, so it's going to be pretty interesting to see which deck is going to finish out the best, which deck is going to be able to top each other, and more importantly, how will Counter Fairies be able to come out of this hole, or how will Herald of Perfection actually be able to come out of this hole, seeing that Counter Fairies does get the opportunity to go first, which means that if they draw anything of a decent hand, that it's probably going to be bye-bye for Herald of Perfection. So going into this game, with that in mind, you have to try to figure out what's going to be more critical for Counter Fairy and what's going to be more critical for Herald of Perfection. Looking at Herald of Perfection's hand, it looks pretty damn solid. So if Counter Fairy doesn't have a good outing right here, then it looks like Counter Fairy or Herald of Perfection can secure this game. And unfortunately, that's just how it is for both of these decks. It's going to be who sets up first, more or less, more than anything else. It looks like Counter Fairy is going to set 1, 2, 3. Okay, so maybe a repeat of game 1 and activate Luster Pin in the scale. Is there a Guiding Ariadne to follow? No, it's a card of Demise. So this deck might be a little desperate to see what's going on. It's going to be 3 cards drawn. And what cards are going to be discarded? Hopefully, if a Guiding Ariadne is added, then man, it's going to be a pretty good hand for Counter Fairy, having 3 back row and a Guiding Ariadne in the hand. Pretty nasty. Or even drawing into a Pot of Desires to fetch you a Guiding Ariadne. No, it's going to be a monster and defense position. And it looks like the cards are going to be lost with Card of Demise, or one card is going to be lost with Card of Demise, and it's a Ties of Brethren. I'm pretty sure that card was very much needed. Going back, it's gonna, you know, blah, I apologize. Counter Fairy or Herald of Perfection is gonna activate Ritual Sanctuary, pitching another Ritual Sanctuary to add a Ritual Monster from the deck to the hand. That's gonna be Benton, and it already looks like we're gonna be starting off with some shenanigans. It looks like Herald of Perfection might be summoned. Geldogra is going to be summoned to the side of the field. And then that effect is possibly going to be used. No, it's going to be lost to a Solemn Warning. And that was the card drawn off of Card of Demise. I'm not 100% sure if that was the best card, because now we're looking at Ties of the Brethren in Graveyard instead of Solemn Warning. But at the same time, Geldogra could have destroyed that card. And, you know, it still would have been all for naught, and Geldogra would have been able to get off its effect. So, not 100% sure which would have been best in that route, but Counter Fairy still has the opportunity to come back and make a great game. And it looks like they've drawn a monster, looking into their extra deck, wondering what that face down monster is. And it could be, thinking about it, it has to be an Honest. The Honest is 1900 defense. It's the only monster feeling safe to set because due to his defense and not losing it to Demise. Because if you think about it, Power Valkyria would have been an excellent monster to summon, even though you wouldn't have gained the effects of Solemn, or I think you would have gained the effects of Solemn Warning. But Honest is going to attack what 1100 damage, and that just might be the mistake of the game. Just to tell you, because thinking about it, Honest has 1900 defense. This deck has a really hard time getting over monsters over 1800, so Honest in defense might have been the perfect defense to defend the deck's self from Herald of Perfection. But then again, we look back at it, as I said in the very beginning of the video, we have a rookie on board who's still trying to learn the nuances of the Yu-Gi-Oh card game, so you still have to give it up for her. She did an awesome job getting one of the games, the very first game, and at the end of the day, this little mistake might have cost her, may have not, but at the end of the day, I think that she played extremely well. So it looks like Herald of Perfection is going to be summoned, and Star Seraph Scepter is going to add Star Seraph Sovereignty from the deck to the hand, and then Herald of Dawn of Herald is going to add a Benton. Now, Star Seraph Scepter is going to attack into the Honest, and Honest is going to be lost, inflicting 700 damage to Counter Fairy, bringing it down to 5,300 life points, and then Herald is going to attack for that 1,800, which, if my math is correct, brings it down to 3,500 life points. Quite a few cards in the hand to stop all of the monster effects. Counter Fairy is definitely looking for a Solemn Strike, a Parshath card. Minerva is going to be something with 1,700 attack, and it looks like it's attack. No, I don't think it's attacking. I think she's just reading, trying to figure out what's going on. If that Minerva was just a little bit stronger, if it can make itself stronger, because the effects of it increasing its attack doesn't necessarily activate, so it can just make itself stronger than Herald of Perfection and win the game outright right there. So that's pretty sucky that Minerva wasn't drawn at a sooner time, and both monsters are going to attack for 1,600 damage. Not sure how Herald's going to be able to get out of this one. Drawing an Ariadne wouldn't even really help, because Herald could negate both effects. And I think this is going to be game. Yeah, this is going to be game. And the middle finger just because. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you guys want to see more content, go ahead and click on any of these videos. I know I'm talking really fast. I only have 20 seconds to say this. I'm TheCaliEffect, and I'll catch you guys on the next video. Peace out.